3,000, 125,000, and a growing 38 million. Now, you must be wondering what these numbers mean. Let's start back from the beginning. 3,000, the average number of abortions happening in the US per day. 125,000, the average amount of abortions happening in the worldwide every single day. And the growing 38 million, the total number of abortions that have happened so far this year. As you can see, these numbers are not small, making this issue bigger than most people can even fathom. But to some, this might not seem like a problem. But if that weren't the case, there'd be no reason for me to be here to give this speech today. But before I continue, let me bring up one more number. 62 million. This number represents the number of abortions that have happened since the legalization by Roe v. Wade in 1973. That number will never decrease, and it will continue to grow no matter what happens from this point forward. But the first three numbers have an opportunity for change. While the main motivation of the pro-life community is to reverse Roe and make abortions unthinkable, there are goals placed within this motive. A huge argument and premise of the pro-choice community is for the need for abortions in extreme circumstances like rape. Yet, these actually make a very small percentage of the reason for abortions in the US. US society and the media wants to categorize abortion almost as if it is another form of contraceptive or birth control, when it is very much not. Contraceptives prevent a pregnancy, while an abortion would terminate one. Abortion should not be a legal form of birth control in the US, and we need to make abortion unthinkable. So that is why I'm here today. So, why are abortions happening? Some of the biggest arguments to support abortion are in the need of rape, health of the mother, or health of the baby. Well, less than 0.5% of abortions are from the cause of rape. Along with that, a person really can't be defined on how they were created. So that whole argument is kind of already pushed to the side, and we're here to argue more to why abortion should not be a form of birth control. And in today's medicine, if we're going by the health of the mother, it is rarely a reason for the health of the mother for a need for an abortion. Late-term abortions are pretty much never medically necessary as well. Emergency C-sections are the most common necessary response in these situations in hopes to save the mother and the baby. They will never put one life above the other. This is not an abortion. In this situation, medical professionals are fighting for both the life of both people, the mother and the child. If we were to lose the baby in this tragic incident, that would become a tragic stillbirth. This, again, makes abortion not medically necessary. So, the health of the baby can also relate to the last argument, but oftentimes this refers to disabilities that we're going to know that the child's going to have, like Down syndrome. This argument is disgusting and appalling. Disabilities does not determine or damage our self-worths. They have tests that they do before your baby's born to see the disabilities they have, and I think that in itself is appalling and disgusting, because you, before that life is put out, you are defining what value that you are going to give them in society when we are all created equal. They add vibrance to the world. Disabilities like Down syndrome, they are typically happier. They live good lives and they add value to this world. And lots of disabilities, they don't damage us as a humankind or the value. They just add vibrance and character to each of us. And in the end of that whole spiel, 92% of abortions in the US are happening for elective purposes and being used quite literally as a form of birth control. So, why is abortion also lawfully incorrect? Well, it's contradicting in itself within the law. The Unborn Victims of Violence Act that was enacted in 2004 treats the unborn babies to be treated as victims and humans in the code of law. If someone were to murder a mother that was pregnant with a baby and both of them were to die, then the murder is then tried with a double homicide. So how is it that abortion clinics are able to end these human lives, the child and the mother, and be glorified for it, quite literally glorified for it? How do these laws not apply to them? If it's a death in the code of law when it was not an intentional death, how is an intentional death treated differently? When the mothers and the doctors are quite literally the cause of the death and terminating that pregnancy. Another big argument we see brought up is the personhood of a fetus. It is a fact that genetically a fetus is a human, just like the mother. It has its own life, and we all know the process of how babies are born, right? Sex, cells meet, zygote, fetus grows, baby's born, right? And life begins at conception. The entire time throughout that process, that baby is alive. A new DNA is formed. But this is when the question arises, aren't eggs and sperm technically living too because they are cells? Well, the best answer I can give to you, first off, is a new DNA is made, as we already said, and one is potentially a human. Sperm and egg, they could potentially make a human. While the other one, once they met, that is a human with potential. This is actually a rebuttal seen by Schwarz and Tacelli in A Defense to Abortion I actually read in my philosophy class last year. Soon, a heartbeat will emerge as well, just like any other human being, and that baby will be able to live at its own as, with today's time, as early as 21 weeks. This leads to the moral argument, as the baby is a burden and a parasite to the mother, an intruder. But that in itself is scientifically incorrect. Though unwanted pregnancies are probably the main reason for abortions, but that baby is not a burden on that mother. Or is it a parasite? Or is it doing something wrong? That baby is exactly where it is supposed to be in its point of life. Babies are born in the womb, or they develop in the womb, and that is where their life starts. That is where everything is. And this is mentioned in Abortion and Some Philosophers, A Critical Examination, which is a great article to read on how that is just a basic part of life, and the idea that it is feeding off of the mother and it's an intruder and it's a burden is completely morally wrong, because that baby is where it's supposed to be. Also, we need to move to the idea that though they use the argument that abortion could be for the reason for the health of the mother or the baby, but why aren't we looking at the dangers of abortion on that mother and the baby? Many of the women aborting their children are not realizing the pain and danger they are exposing themselves to, but their child to as well. Many try to argue that these unborn babies do not feel pain, but science and medical research has proven time and time again that these babies lack pain modifiers. And at first this sounds like, oh yeah, of course they can't feel pain. But due to their immature neurological systems, lacking the pain modifiers actually opens them up to an unlimited amount of pain. And they can't capsulate on that pain to where we go numb eventually, as us humans would, or us adults and people outside of the womb would. Actually, your neurological systems do not develop until after birth, after a few months have passed by. So, and we can actually see this is a huge problem in late-term abortions and infanticide, and something that they are trying to put into neonates and in the NICU, because if you are harming and putting pain trauma on this baby in the womb and as an infant, and they were to live after that, they are going to have several health effects on life, and they're doing more tests on neonates with medical professionals that did not take the proper pain perceptions with a nonverbal patient, and seeing how it affects them later in life with different issues. Adding on to that, there is a chance that this abortion will mentally and physically affect the mother and could lead to death. Up to 14% of maternal deaths per year are due to abortion. There is also a link in mental health diagnosis in women who have had abortion. And the thing is, there are so many great uses of contraceptions. The pill, 93% effective. Condoms for males, 87% effective, and IUDs are over 99% effective. There's so many other options, and I, being at a Baptist university, could always tell you that abstinence could too, but I'm not here to tell you that sex is wrong. I'm here to tell you abortion is wrong. But abstinence always does usually have pretty good odds. I mean, they did have that one guy, or that one woman, Mary, in the Bible with that one incident, but we haven't heard of anything since. But in the end, abortion is tragic no matter which side you're coming from. And unfortunately, this act of violence is happening every single day. Abortion is scientifically, lawfully, and morally unjust. Together with bringing out knowledge and awareness of what abortion is, what it causes, and the alternatives to it, we can lower these numbers and make a change in the world. Every human deserves a chance at life because, after all, weren't you given that chance?